"I'm sorry, but this foolish and backstabbing clown who believed they could play you has lost the game." They moved stealthily in the shadows, disseminating false information about you and sneaking around behind your back, under the impression that their sleazy little affair would never appear in public. On the other hand, you were always 10 steps ahead of everyone else, and the truth travels forward more quickly than gossip at a family barbecue. They donned a mask from the very beginning, smiling at you and clapping just a little bit too late, pretending that they were thrilled for you while on the inside, every fiber of their being screamed envy. It was not support. Rather, it was surveillance happening. They were not rooting for you. Rather, they were analyzing you, analyzing every victory, every glow-up, and every effortless way that you drew them in. They did not merely desire what you possessed. Rather, they desired to imitate you. The fact that they were unable to recreate your essence caused their envy to boil like poison as they wore a fake smile on their face. In public, they lauded you, but behind closed doors, they referred to you as very fortunate. They brought your work ethic into question, questioned your worth, and attempted to change your story while subtly expressing concern. They did all of this while cloaked as care. Is it the ill part? They believed that they were brilliant and that you did not notice, but you have always had eyes that are noticeably more perceptive than their falsehoods. When there should have been moments of jubilation, you were able to see through the fake support, the applauding that was performed, and the side-eye that was given. You had tranquility, you had a sense of purpose, you were going about your business, creating and elevating, and they, on the other hand, were falling apart in secret, caught in a cycle of comparison and quiet wrath. They are unaware of the fact that envy raises a lot of noise. It is communicated through body language, through timing, and through the awkward quiet that follows the delivery of good news. At the very beginning, their envy was a scream. They turned into a fan club that was silent, motivated by hatred, smiling through clenched teeth, covertly bookmarking your victories, rehearsing your lines, and parting your presence like a poor impersonation. Not only were they not inspired, but they were also attempting to take in you. They duplicated your mannerisms, your energy, and your pattern, right down to the breath. But an individual's spiritual DNA cannot be transferred. It is impossible to steal anointing. There is no way to fake alignment. Even though you can put on the clothing, you will never be able to walk in the calling. You didn't stumble here by accident. You were led. If something in your spirit is stirring, don't ignore it. Tap Join to access exclusive content, prophetic insights, and a community of purpose-driven souls. This isn't just a membership. It's your moment of alignment. Step into who you were born to be. Welcome to the chosen. The truth drove them completely insane. The reason they started hoping that you would fall was not because you had injured them, but rather because your excellence had bruised their ego. They were hoping that something would shatter you, humiliate you, and silence you. They did not want to be in the spotlight. Rather, they wanted to be focused on you. As soon as they discovered that they were unable to handle it, they made an effort to reduce it. An obsession that turned into a quiet battle that was fought through backhanded remarks, slick posts, bogus alliances, and whispered lies aimed to chip away at your reputation came about as a result of the occupation. However, the truth does not deviate for clowns, and lies do not hold up well when exposed to light. It began as jealousy, but it eventually turned into identity theft. In addition, they were unable to acknowledge the fact that they had lost themselves in the process of attempting to be a version of you that you had outgrown. So that's why they're falling apart right now. Because of this, the characteristics that they attempted to imitate are now serving as reminders of their failure. The pursuit of influence was not what they were doing. Rather, they were attempting to erase the version of themselves that they had given up a long time ago. It wasn't just that they were envious, they were also messy, and the chaos went beyond anything as superficial as shade and murmurs. The affair was a scandal, a dirty link that they promised would never be revealed to the public, and it was a covert affair. Spirit, on the other hand, does not remain mute when lies are used as weapons against those who are innocent. Currently, that treachery is making its way into the light of day. It is loud, unfiltered, and indisputable. During the time that they were pointing fingers at you and portraying you as the villain, they were deeply involved in deception. They were sleeping with someone they had no business touching, making bargains in the dark, manipulating emotions, loyalties, and energy, and all of this was happening while they were claiming to be the faithful one. What is the irony? Were they expecting that if they painted you with enough dirt, no one would see their own hands dripping in mud? They projected their own filth onto your name in the hope that this would be enough. Karma, on the other hand, does not forget addresses, and the things that they attempted to bury are manifesting themselves with receipts, witnesses, and godlike clarity. It's possible that you don't have all the information, but your soul has always known that something was amiss. Never once did the energy lie. All of those unpleasant tensions, the sudden distance between them, and the way that they overcompensated with forced tenderness were all causes for distraction. They desired for you to be oblivious, silent, and unaware of their actions while they were manipulating you behind your back. However, the cords broke, the mask broke, and the story is rapidly turning around at this point. It is no longer a secret that they keep their little secret. These very individuals, to whom they had previously whispered lies, are now muttering about you. Screenshots are being passed around, conversations are being recalled, and the person or people who attempted to use you as a scapegoat has become the person that everyone believes. You maintained your composure thanks to the fact that your energy never changed, even as they descended into pandemonium while posing as confident. There is more to this exposure than just a controversy. It is about upholding justice. The reason that Spirit permitted their bones to shake was because they were attempting to bury you in the shadows. On the other hand, what they failed to recognize is that when you are aligned, protected, and walking in truth, the dirt that is thrown at you transforms into the soil that you will use to elevate yourself. If you've been touched by God's goodness, don't keep it to yourself. Click Super Thank You and sow a gift of $50 or more to help spread His light. Your giving becomes a ripple of grace, blessing hearts and building His kingdom. Let His overflow pour through you. They are currently seeing the disintegration of the same chaotic circle that they used to joke about with, gossip about, and conspire with. Envy, ego, and feigned allegiance are the foundations around which their entire network of haters is based, and it is collapsing like ash. As you can see, alliances that are forged via animosity do not last. It is impossible to have honor among those who are uneasy, and when the truth begins to come out, rats fly away. The lies that they told in order to get others to turn against you are now the very lies that reveal them to be the architect of chaos. Would you like to see that little army of phony affirmations and side eyes ceased to exist, having no power? That's it. For the Lord shall prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies, and no shadow can feast where light has claimed its seat. Now let me tell you, chosen one, when God sets the table, No counterfeit soul can pull up a chair. What you're walking through isn't chaos. It's a clearing. It's a divine setup for a comeback you didn't even have to orchestrate. Sometimes God won't let you fight because the victory is already written. You're not behind, you're being positioned. They were a group of cowards, people too shattered to see through the deception and too terrified to think for themselves about what they were doing. But baby, energy doesn't lie. It never has, and it never will. One by one, those former allies are beginning to reawaken. They're replaying the conversations, they're re-examining the receipts, and it's finally clicking. They were puppets, used by someone too broken to confront their own reflection. Someone who built a false image just to feel like they mattered. See, when folks can't deal with their own pain, they start projecting. They start twisting stories to make you look like the villain just so they can feel like the victim. But you never had to raise your voice. You never had to lift a finger. God handled it. The curse has been broken. Your name cleared. And you didn't even have to speak. You didn't have to defend yourself in their court of confusion. Because truth has a way of rising, even in silence. They thrived on groupthink, dragging your name into every insecure space they gathered in, tossing your reputation around like it was free to cheapen. But the more you stayed still, the louder their chaos got. The more you held your peace, the more desperate their noise became. And here's the miracle. Your silence was strategy. Heaven turned your quiet into a loud deliverance. God used what they meant to bury you to plant you. And now, you're blooming right in front of the same ones who hoped you'd wither. The circle is broken, the spell is undone, and favor is falling like rain on your soil. Get ready, this is your rising. They continued to bring up your name, and others began to wonder why they were continually talking about you instead of something else. How come they are putting so much pressure on someone who is not even responding to them? The seeds of uncertainty were planted, and in an instant, they were brought into full view. The extent of their power is diminishing. Campaigns that were whispered about were ignored. There was a break in that superiority complex, that side smirk. The reason why people no longer trust them is not because of what you said. Rather, it is because of the things that they disclosed about themselves while they believed that no one was observing them. And now, they are alone, terrified, and exposed to the world. You have no need for retribution. Controversy is not what you require. This collapse is of a psychic kind. A divine separation has occurred. Every single falsehood, every single partnership that is founded on hatred, and every single talk that takes place behind their backs are all turning against them. You, on the other hand, are observing without disturbance. It was their intention to cast you out of society, to isolate you, and to humiliate you. On the other hand, they chose to exile themselves. Additionally, they are currently suffocating due to the distance that they attempted to shove you into. The appearance of divine justice has been described as being sophisticated, uncomplicated, and completely indisputable. They were under the impression that they were in charge, that they were pulling strings, that they were writing the screenplay, and that they were deciding who would succeed and who would fail. The thing that they failed to recognize, however, was that the situation had already shifted long before their lies were even broadcast into the air. It is not power that screams. There is no pursuit of power. It is in quiet that true power moves. And the instant you stopped explaining yourself and started aligning, your power moved. Not only was that shift not loud, but it was divine. Moreover, they are currently enduring the consequences of a hurricane that they were not able to anticipate. Their access to you was the only true strength They have. This was their introduction. They had a false sense of influence in that regard. However, as soon as you disconnected, severed the cord, and restored your tranquility, they began to become problematic. You were the driving force behind everything. For me, you were the source of energy. Their significance diminished when you were not present in the room. Their power was not born inside them. Rather, it was acquired. They are frantically trying to power something that was never genuine to begin with. And now that you have left, they are doing so. The silence you maintained was misunderstood by them, and they misinterpreted your grace for weakness. Nevertheless, that distance was a strategic move. It was a form of protection. You did not retreat because you were terrified. Rather, you retreated because their spirit was no longer able to participate in the conversation at your table. And at this very now, they are starving at the one that they constructed with resentment, attempting to recreate the glow that they previously derived from you. The issue about spiritual tables, however, is that once the energy that you possess has been disclosed, you will not receive a second invitation. God don't just rescue, He reverses. And when He flips the script, those who tried to write you out of the story find themselves reading your name in bold print. Chosen one, listen to me. There comes a time in every divine assignment when the page turns, when heaven says, that chapter is closed, and no human hand can reopen it. Just like Pharaoh couldn't follow Moses through the sea, some people can't walk into your next season, not because you're bitter, because they were never built for your blessing. At this moment, they are aware of the change, the reversal. In the same way they once clawed for the spotlight, that same light now shines on them. Unfiltered, unmerciful. It doesn't flatter, it exposes. There is no support, no crowd, no applause, just the bare truth. Just who they really are when your glow is no longer in the room. And what haunts them now? It's not just the loss of control. It's that gut-deep knowing that you're not coming back, that they can't pull you back into the same old cycles. Not this time, not ever. The old tricks won't work anymore. The guilt trips? Expired. The silence you used to keep the peace? Broken. You're not hiding anymore, and you're not handing out second chances to people who fumbled the first one. You see, when you stopped showing up to boost their image, something shifted. When you stopped defending yourself, heaven stepped in to speak for you. And now, they're standing alone in the very space they once used to feed off your grace. This isn't just growth, it's graduation. You're soaring now, not struggling. While they're busy trying to build a stage to perform their version of the truth, you're building legacy in secret. While they obsess, you rise. While they plot, you're protected. You're not watching your back. You're watching your future unfold. Because when God lifts you, nobody can pull you down. And when the oil is on you, no imitation can compete. This is your no turning back season. This is your watch what God does next moment. Keep flying, chosen one. The sky was never your limit, just your starting point. It was never theirs to begin with, but they clung to power. It was yours from the beginning. To add insult to injury, there is no turning back now that you have reclaimed it. The terror that they are unable to conceal any longer is causing them to spin out of control. There is now panic in place of the faux serenity. They are not eating or sleeping at this time. Every time they feel their phone vibrate, it seems as if another receipt is appearing before them. They are checking who has watched their stories, they are obsessed with who is still on their side, and they are practicing damage control speeches that no one is buying. Both of them are aware that the walls are closing in on them. Every single falsehood that they have ever said is breaking down one by one in front of the people. They were under the impression that they were playing chess, but in reality, they were pursuing ghosts in a game that they had no idea how to play. There has been an onset of paranoia. They are pleading for silence, in addition to putting others under the bus, and they are whispering to people whom they have previously deceived. Nevertheless, nothing is functioning. That mask for the performance, it is falling apart. That carefully cultivated self-assurance, shattered or broken. It is not merely a matter of embarrassment. The karmic takedown has barely started, and it's already quite a deal. You're not here by chance. Feel the pull, tap, join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership. It's your calling. The creeping and horrible awareness that you were never the problem is something that they begin to experience. Indeed, they were. Also, the spotlight that they so desperately wanted is now revealing everything. Everything is falling apart, including the plans, the betrayal, and the obsession. It is not because you have clapped back, but rather because karma never fails to strike. It was believed by them that quiet was a sign of weakness when your spirit was being safeguarded. Your silence, however, was a strategy, and now they are the ones who are stumbling around, frightened and terrified, trying to escape the repercussions that they themselves have set in motion. This is what occurs when you turn someone who was only ever divinely aligned into an adversary by your actions. It is not the storm that is approaching. Rather, it has already arrived, and they are standing smack dab in the middle of it. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, not to argue in the desert. Sometimes the highest proof of power is not in the volume of your voice, but in the peace of your presence. Chosen one, there's a sacred kind of strength that doesn't need to shout. There's a holy kind of authority that doesn't need to prove a point. And you, beloved, walked in that. You didn't yell, you didn't rave, and you didn't expose them, because truth doesn't have to perform. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy, it was preservation. It was heaven's way of saying, stand still, I got this. While they stirred chaos, you stayed calm. While they spread lies, you built legacy. You didn't try to outtalk them because your stillness said more than their noise ever could. And isn't it just like God to use what the world thinks is soft and quiet to bring the deepest kind of correction? They thought your silence meant they were winning, but all it did was highlight how loud their insecurity really was, because nothing shakes the insecure more than being ignored by the one they were obsessed with tearing down. And they were obsessed, chosen one. They watched you, studied you, mimicked you, even tried to mark you with their dirt. But the dirt didn't stick, because your energy was never for sale. Your light couldn't be copied. You chose peace, and that peace pierced deeper than any insult ever could. It exposed their performance. It silenced their smear campaigns. Your refusal to engage left them shadowboxing with their own bitterness. And while they went in circles, chasing drama, you got into alignment. You weren't just moving on, you were moving up. Let them talk. Let them spin stories. Your life is your rebuttal. Your fruit is your witness. And your silence, that was your greatest sermon. God saw the lies. Heaven took notes. And now, while they unravel, you are rising, untouched, unbothered, and undeniably chosen. However, you did not bring yourself down to their level. He allowed them to become submerged in their own energy. In addition, they are now troubled by the fact that you did not respond to them. You became the ghost that they can't stop thinking about. Specifically, the ghost that they are unable to provoke reach, or recreate. Any attempt to antagonize you just served to underscore the desperation that they were feeling. All of the stories that they fabricated now reverberate back to them, hollow. People became aware of it. It was then that they began to inquire, why are they so obsessed? In addition, the response was crystal clear, because your radiance could not be diminished by even the most heinous of lies. You have excelled. You made peace. You underwent a change. However, that metamorphosis is much more audible than any clapback that could ever be given. Not only did you make it through their mayhem, but you also flourished in the aftermath of it. That is the thing that truly chafes them. Rather than your stillness, it was the results of your silence that brought about calm, clarity, elevation, and power. There was no adversary in you. There was a conflict between them and their own reflection. Furthermore, when it did not destroy you, it shattered them entirely. They are currently wallowing in the rubble of their own resentment, while you continue to rise without any impediments. Does it really flex? You never put on a single drop of sweat. This was not merely a mess. Rather, it was a cleansing of the spirit. This experience was not a form of punishment. Rather, it was a form of revelation. It would be impossible for you to bring these snakes inside your breakthrough. The disclosure had to take place because elevation necessitates separation, and the universe had grown weary of allowing fakes to orbit around a particular individual. There was no coincidence in this act of betrayal. What you saw was the divine drawing a line in the sand, revealing to you who was never intended to travel where you are going. They were never in existence. They were tasked with depleting, distracting, and delaying you in progress. However, rather than shattering you, they awakened something that was far more powerful. Their betrayal compelled you to obtain clarification. Your ability to perceive was honed by their lies. Your peace became holy as a result of their turbulence. Because God lifted the curtain, you were able to see the truth, not because they experienced a lapse in judgment. Always, you were shielded from harm. Those exposures did not constitute punishment. It was a form of defense. You did not require a conclusion. You required further guidance. In addition, this season provided you with a resounding and indisputable clarity. No more putting on an act that they have your back. There will be no more stifling your intuition. No more using the power of gaslight to convince yourself to maintain calm. The elimination of the parasites has made it possible for you to breathe a sigh of relief. Your circle of friends is more intimate, your attitude is more buoyant, and your future is more promising. It wasn't just that they were a danger to your tranquility, they posed a danger to the pursuit of your goal. This is the reason why the truth has to be revealed. In order for you to eventually be able to stop questioning yourself and begin carrying yourself with complete confidence. This was your moment to clean up your spiritual dwelling. It was not a personal attack. It was crucial to do so. It wasn't for the purpose of exacting revenge, to bring about enlightenment. In addition, now that you have seen it, you will never be able to unsee it, and you will never again allow that kind of energy to come close to you. Your next level is already waiting for you, and the mess has been cleaned up, and the air has been purified.